Yes guys, welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to be covering all of the performances across the weekend, from the Coates League to the SANFL to the WAFL, all of those under 18 competitions, and we've even got some performances from the leagues like the WAFL and the WAFL seniors as well. So plenty of footy to cover. I'm sorry I didn't get this video out sooner, but I had to kind of watch all the games. It's quite a time consuming thing just to go over all of this footage and that kind of thing. So we'll get stuck in. First up was Bendigo and the Northern Knights. Bendigo lost this game by 54 points to the Knights away from home. The Knights were brilliant in this game, and we'll start with some of their performances. Thomas Sims kicked 3 goals and just continues his brilliant back end of the season. Zach Johnson, 23 disposals and 3 goals, and he's such a good footballer. Zach Johnson finds the football wherever he goes on the field. He just seems to be able to find it, and he's so creative and artistic with the footy in his hand. He was playing across half back at times, in the midfield, and he even pushes forward and kicks goals, as he did here with his 3 goals. So he's brilliant. I guess the only asterisk or question mark on Zach Johnson is just maybe his national championships, which he came in too late after, suffering an injury early. So he didn't really get to show himself there, which would have been nice. Gabriel Stumpf got to stand up in this game as that sort of number one key tool. He kicked 4 goals, and it's probably his first really outstanding big performance where he's just been the guy for Northern Knights. So that was brilliant to see. And Lucas McInerney picked up 22 disposals and a goal off a sort of wing marauding halfback role. He's one of the real movers for them outside the contest. So loved his work. For Bendigo, and this is probably the biggest move that we saw in this game, it was Travaglia as a full-time midfielder. He was pretty much at every centre bounce. We got to see his ground level skills, and we got to see the full Will Day transformation here. 22 disposals, 2 goals and 9 tackles. So he did all the defensive work too, and it was treacherous conditions for a guy that is, pushing 190 centimetres, because the ball was wet, it was on the ground a lot, and he was still able to show his wares. Real clean below his knees, flicking out handballs, driving out of the contest, and then going forward and being that aerial threat that we know that he can do from a defensive point of view, but you kind of get more genuine one-on-ones inside the forward 50, and Toby was really able to show that brilliantly in this game. Archie Wicks was fantastic, and I think his back end of the season, he could really push up towards this top 20 as well. He had 23 disposals, 3 goals, showed everything, or the best parts of himself, I guess, in this game. Like, he's got that power, he bursts away from the stoppage, he drives the ball really long inside 50. A couple of those balls that you thought he was driving inside 50 actually went through the big sticks, and that was part of his 3 goals. But he's got such a big boot on him, he's such a good territory player, and I don't know, he falls somewhere between like a Jake Stringer as that sort of third tall hybridy forward player and sort of a Jordan De Goey Petrarca midfield type player. So world's the oyster for Day Wicks, I reckon. And if he can have a big back end to the year, he's definitely going to be pushing that top 15, top 20. Job Shanahan was the other one from the Pioneers to talk about. He played behind the ball in this game, so an unfamiliar role. Probably wasn't the day for that move if you look at it retrospectively, as it was really wet. So he wasn't able to kind of get in there and compete as much as he would have liked. I probably, at this stage, would say I prefer him forward, but it's nice to see. And I wouldn't mind seeing it in a drier game as well. Gippy and the Western Jets was another really interesting game. Not for the actual scoreline, which Gippy ran away with a 10-point win here, but we got to see Alex Tyree play a sort of almost like a Tom Stewart role, I would say, where he sort of played in the centre bounce and then he floated back across half-back. Played less of a sort of sweeping, intercepting role like Tom Stewart and more of a sort of genuine lockdown defender. But we got to see some centre bounces from him. We got to see his ground level skills, which are brilliant. He was flicking out a few handballs there, winning the ball at ground level. And then he floats back and he does his defensive work. He's brilliant one-on-one, and he's such a good option for teams, I think, coming in as that sort of athletic defender. He's got great closing speed, and he's able to play on those sort of hybridy type players, the kind of high mid-180s type small forwards, and then he's also able to play on the taller guys as well. So you get that positional flexibility, and that's why he's such a big currency is being placed on his head at the moment. Xavier Lindsay is just absolute silk and just showed it again, playing a full-time midfield role, 26 disposals, he kicked 1 goal, 3. If he's not driving the ball out of the centre and using that beautiful left foot kick to hit up targets, he's in the forward half, intercepting kick-ins, kicking goals. I don't know, he just does everything. I love watching Xavier Lindsay play. Luca Grego, he was good for the Western Jets in this game. He had 22 disposals, playing a more pure midfield role, whereas he plays that sort of half-back role for Vic Metro. The other big positional move here was Ricky Mentford, a half-back, and I think he really thrived in this role. And it's a good sort of lesson, I guess, for some of these smaller forward-type players who are finding it difficult to get hold of the footy. You get starved a little bit inside forward 50 at times. He ran off half-back in this game. He picked up 22 disposals, and he just looked so much better. He looked like he was able to run freely. He was coming off the back of the stoppage and getting involved in, the majority of Gippsland's transition. So fantastic game for him. And the last one I want to talk about here is Thomas McGuan for the Western Jets. He had 16 disposals, and again, just putting together a really productive season for the Western Jets as a bottom major, and he just plays well pretty much in every game. So we'll move on to the game that I actually watched in the flesh, which was Dandenong versus Eastern. This was an 81-point blowout. Not too much to talk about in this game other than just your Harvey Langford and your Cooper Hines, who just continue to get the job done. 23 disposals and a goal for Harvey Langford. He spent most of the last quarter off with a bit of a cut to the chin, so he had a bit of an injury there. Just gets it done every week. He just gets his 25 odd touches, hits the scoreboard. He's combative in the midfield. In the wet conditions, he was brilliant. He handled the ball really well and just drives them forward at all cost. Pretty much the same story for Cooper Hines. He sort of lifted again in that last quarter when Harvey Langford went off. So they just take it upon themselves. They're real leaders and they use their size to the best possible way that they can. I thought for the Rangers, Christian Moraes was pretty good in there in, again, difficult conditions where it was wet and very contested, which is probably not his absolute mode. He was able to find the footy, get it to the outside, and had 22 touches and used it pretty well. So good performance from him. We had Murray versus Sandringham. Murray got a good win in this game by 18 points. Joe Berry was that that positional move that we saw in this game. He played pretty much full-time midfield. He was at all the starting centre bounces, at least that I saw. He had 22 disposals and kicked a goal. We were able to see in this game that sort of explosive power running that he's got from the midfield. He's able to, break out a stoppage, and he looks really, really exciting and really impressive. Probably attributes that we've seen him do inside forward 50, but we haven't been able to see it from a midfield role. So it'd be nice to see him kind of continue that and just be able to see him get that, 20 to 30 touches in the back half of this season. Jack Whitlock was brilliant again. 3 goals, 3s, contested markings a standout, but he's able to find the footy. He had 19 disposals to go with his 3 goals in this game. So both of the Whitlocks, like Matt had 2 goals too, playing forward, and had 16 disposals. So they're not those forwards that only touch the ball, 5 to 10 times. They pick up their, 15 to 25 touches most of the time. Josh Murphy was that third tall. He kicked 3 goals for the Bushrangers as well, so continues to play good footy. And I think of all of those, like third tall types or key forward types even, Josh Murphy, he looks like such a good footballer, even though he perhaps doesn't have all of the athletic attributes. He kind of just does it in a footballing way, if you kind of get me there. For Sandringham in this game, they had a couple of good performances. Nathaniel Salzberger, who's had a bit of a quieter patch of form, I would say. He had 25 in this game and kicked the goal. So I was pretty impressed with his game. I love his contest work. It's probably just his outside game that I think needs to improve a little bit for him to push up those draft rankings. And Jet Hayata, who's having an absolute amazing end to this back half of this season for Sandringham. He's been their main guy, really. He had another 2 goals in this game, playing a sort of wing, mid, forward hybrid role. He even showed a bit of his contested marking, and he's so good at ground level. It says he's 185 centimetres. I'd like to get that checked. He looks taller than 185, but yeah, he's just a real presence in there for Sandringham. Fantastic game and a fantastic run of form for him. Next one is GWV and the Calder Cannons. This was won by just the 1 point for the Calder Cannons, so a great game. Jack O, so mostly played on a wing. He's that bigger bodied winger. He's about 192 centimetres, I believe. He had 32 disposals, played a more pure midfield role. He was at all the centre bounces and just found the footy, picked it up. These are kind of the performances that I wanted to see earlier in the season from Jack O that we just haven't seen. Maybe he is suited to a more inside midfielder role, and I like this going forward. I think he had a fantastic game. He teamed up really well with his partner in crime in Jonty Fole, who's just looming now as the best key forward in this draft. He had 2 goals, 16 touches. He's so elusive. He's so versatile. And I absolutely love the body of work that he's starting to put together. Isaac Kako, just brilliant. Played full-time mid in this game. He had 19 touches. He kicked 2 goals. And probably most impressively for Kako, he had 5 tackles in this game, which was up there with a game high for him. So that's probably the only thing really seen him being criticised for is his tackling pressure, and he was really good in that area in this game. Nash King had 31 disposals. He was really productive for the Calder Cannons, as was Damon Hollow, who had 22 disposals and kicked 2 goals. And another one of those players, he's just such a good footballer, Damon Hollow. He just finds space, finds the ball, and just works it. We'll go to the VFL because these under-18 boys are starting to make appearances at that level. Jagger Smith had his second game for Richmond in the VFL. He had 27 disposals and 4 clearances against Collingwood. That backs up his 31 disposal, 7 clearance game last week. And I want to talk about this just for a second, just his clearance work. I know I go on about it quite a lot, how good he is at the clearance source, but it's because of his loose ball getting ability. And we've actually seen a trend in the AFL this season where the number of hard balls is going down. I'm not sure if it's to do with the rules relating to like the holding the ball and stuff like that, but the hard ball numbers are dropping and the loose ball numbers are becoming even more important. And that's why Jagger is thriving so much at the clearance source. And even with that small frame, that body that doesn't look big enough to be playing at that level, he's still able to put up these sorts of numbers. It's his clearance work, it's his contested possession work, which comes from that loose ball getting. We move on to the next player, which is Josiah Delana. He had a really good national championship with the Allies. He put a 10 disposal and 1 goal game, playing that half-forward role for GWS. Noah Uze had 8 disposals and a goal for Casey, so son of Adam, obviously there. Leo Lombard, 11 disposals and a goal. He's played a fair bit of VFL footy, played in the Premiership for Gold Coast last season. And bottom ager Zeke Uland had 16 disposals and a goal at VFL level, so he's looking really likely as a top 5 pick for next year. James Barrett got a debut, the Bendigo Pioneers boy for Essendon, and he had 10 disposals in that game too. Moving on to the SANFL, and Sid Draper just continues to do his brilliant work and just shows that he's going to transition into the AFL beautifully. 26 disposals and 1 goal for South Adelaide in a win for them. Phoenix Hargrave got his debut. I think it was his debut. He had 14 touches and kicked 1 goal too for South Adelaide. And Tyler Welsh, 9 disposals and a goal. Seems to be able to turn small disposal returns into goals. Always does Tyler Welsh. In the under-18s at SANFL level, you had Alex Dodson, 32 disposals and 34 hitouts for Sturt in the ruck. He's just an absolute freak, is Dodson. Dyson Sharp, 27 disposals and 2 goals, 1 for next year. He's a bottom ager for Central Districts. Evan Bradley kicked 3 goals also for North Adelaide and still looms as an option for a small forward if clubs want to look there. In the WAFL, Bo Allen had 14 disposals playing off halfback for Claremont. Hamish Davis had 16 disposals for Claremont as well, and Malachi Champion, who made his debut at senior level for Subiaco, had 3 goals from his 9 disposals. So another one that I like that he seems to be able to step up to any level and be able to hit the scoreboard. We know he's a low disposal guy, but he's so damaging. Seen him in a variety of different roles this season, so he just continues to build, and West Coast look like they've got a beauty there as an NGA prospect. The last one I want to talk about from the WAFL is Cody Angove, who had 18 disposals in the under-18s and kicked 4 goals, if you don't mind. He's put a really good back end of the season together. This is for Claremont in the under-18 WAFL, so some huge performances there, and overall just some, I looked across my names, you've sort of got those names that are starting to appear at the top that you're looking for first at the disposal sheet, and they all seem to be able to find the footy and find big performances coming into this back end of the year. I can't wait for the draft combine that's in a couple of months as well. So we get to see some of those athletic tests that we can start to, use them as differentials and ways of, splitting 2 players that we think are pretty even and that sort of thing. So lots of good stuff to look forward to. We've also got the Coates Talent League finals coming up, and yeah, it's just amazing, really. So that is a wrap for my weekend report. I'll try to get plenty more of these videos out across the back end of the season leading up to the draft. And if you guys, you might have seen some performances that I didn't see across the weekend, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.